The massive alien ship moved through space like a silver knife cutting through black cloth. Captain Zexthara stood on the bridge, her purple skin gleaming under the bright lights. Her 4 eyes focused on the blue planet ahead. Earth. Another primitive world waiting to be saved. "Captain, we are getting radio signals from the planet," said her communications officer. "Very basic, just like the report said." Zexthara smiled with her sharp teeth. After 50,000 years, her people knew how to handle young species. They had done this hundreds of times before. Find a new world, teach them, guide them, make them better. It was their duty as an elder race. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Let us see what these humans are like." The screen flickered. A face appeared. It was smooth and pink with only 2 eyes. The creature looked nervous and excited at the same time. Behind it, other humans moved around in what looked like a control room. "This is Ambassador Sarah Chen of Earth," the human said. Her voice shook a little. "Are you really from another world?" Zexthara felt the familiar warmth of superiority. These young ones were always the same, so eager, so innocent, so grateful when the wise elders arrived to help them. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Captain Zexthara of the Galactic Confederation. We have traveled far to meet you. Your world has been chosen for uplift." The human's eyes grew wide. "Uplift? What does that mean?" "It means we will teach you. We will share our knowledge. We will help you join the community of civilized worlds." Zexthara spoke slowly, like she was talking to a child. "Your people will no longer be alone in the universe." Other humans gathered around their ambassador. They whispered to each other in excited voices. One of them, an old man with white hair, stepped forward. He looked calm compared to the others. "I am Dr. Marcus Webb," the old man said. "We are honored by your offer, but we must ask, what do you want in return?" Zexthara was pleased. At least one of them was smart enough to ask the right questions. "Nothing that you cannot give freely. We ask only for friendship, for trust, for the chance to guide your species toward a better future." Ambassador Chen looked at Dr. Webb. He gave her a small nod. Something passed between them, but Zexthara could not tell what it was. Humans were hard to read with their strange, flat faces. "We accept your generous offer," Chen said. "But we have one request. Could you place your embassy in Antarctica? It is far from our major cities. We think it would be better for our people to learn about you slowly." Zexthara thought this was wise. Many young species got frightened when advanced aliens appeared in their capital cities. It was better to start small. Let them get used to the idea gradually. "Very reasonable," she said. "We will send down a diplomatic team tomorrow. Prepare your people for the greatest gift they have ever received." When the communication ended, Zexthara turned to her crew. They all looked pleased. Another successful first contact. Another primitive world ready to be lifted up from darkness. "Begin scanning their technology," she ordered. "I want to know exactly how primitive they are." The science officer worked at his station for several minutes. Then he looked up with surprise on his face. "Captain, this is strange. Their technology is more advanced than our initial report suggested. They have fusion power, some kind of space travel, even basic computers." Zexthara frowned. "How basic?" "Very basic. Like children playing with tools they do not understand. But still, it is more than most species have when we find them." "Interesting. Perhaps they found some old ruins, some leftover technology from a dead race. It happens sometimes." Zexthara dismissed the concern with a wave of her hand. "It does not matter. We will teach them the proper way to use such things." Down on Earth, in a secret room deep underground, Dr. Webb sat with Ambassador Chen and 12 other people. These were the real leaders of Earth, the Shadow Council. They had been waiting for this day for a very long time. "They took the bait perfectly," Chen said. "Just like we predicted." Dr. Webb nodded. His real age was 812 years old. Though he looked 70, the technology that kept him alive was far beyond anything the Galactic Confederation possessed. But they would never know that. The Veltar are predictable, he said. They see what they expect to see. A young, primitive species that needs their guidance. They will never look deeper. How long do we maintain the act? Asked General Martinez, head of Earth's real military. As long as necessary, Webb replied. Remember, we have been doing this for thousands of years. Every time a new elder race finds us, we play the same game. We let them think they are superior. We learn from them. We grow stronger. And when they fall, as they always do, we survive. Chen looked at the star charts on the wall. Red dots marked the locations of dead civilizations. Blue dots showed the current powers in the galaxy. Earth was marked with a small green dot, listed as a developing world in Confederation records. The Confederation is strong, she said. Stronger than the last group who found us. They all seemed strong at first, Webb said quietly. The architects seemed strong too, until the younger races turned on them, until fear and jealousy destroyed them. We learned from watching that. We learned that sometimes the best way to be strong is to appear weak. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the history. Humanity had spread across the galaxy long before any of the current elder races had even discovered fire. They had built great cities on 1,000 worlds. They had unlocked the deepest secrets of space and time, but they had also watched other great civilizations rise and fall. They had seen what happened to species who grew too proud, too visible, too threatening to their neighbors. So humanity had made a choice. They hid. They pretended to be young. They let others think they were primitive. It was a hard choice, but it was the smart choice. And it had kept them alive when so many others had died. Begin Phase 2 tomorrow, Webb said. Let them teach us their advanced technology. Let them feel superior. And remember, we are not the students here. We are the teachers. We just do not let them know it yet. The meeting ended. The Shadow Council members left one by one, returning to their public roles as scientists, diplomats, and officials. To the outside world, they were just humans doing their jobs. To the Galactic Confederation, they would be grateful students, learning from wise masters. But in truth, they were something else entirely. They were the hidden guardians of the galaxy, the secret elders, the watchers who had seen empires rise and fall like waves on a beach. And now, once again, they would play their greatest role. The role of the primitive species that needed help. The role that had kept humanity alive for 50,000 years. The masquerade was about to begin. 3 months had passed since the Confederation built their embassy in Antarctica. The white building sat on the ice like a crystal palace, humming with alien technology. Inside, Captain Zexithera felt very pleased with how things were going. The humans were perfect students. They listened carefully to every lesson. They asked simple questions that showed they were trying hard to understand. They wrote down everything in thick notebooks like eager children. Today we will teach you about fusion reactors, announced Dr. Kethmar, the Confederation's chief scientist. He was a tall, blue creature with 6 arms and a large brain case. This is very advanced technology. Your people will need many years to truly understand it. Ambassador Chen sat in the front row with Dr. Webb and 20 other human scientists. They all looked very serious and interested. Chen raised her hand like a student in school. Dr. Kethmar, could you explain how the plasma containment works? We want to make sure we understand the basic principles. Kethmar smiled with his small mouth. These humans were so humble, so willing to admit they did not know things. It was refreshing after dealing with some of the more arrogant young species. Of course, he said, the magnetic fields create a bottle to hold the hot plasma. Think of it like an invisible box made of magnetism. The humans nodded and scribbled notes. Dr. Webb raised his hand. Forgive me if this sounds stupid, Webb said. But why do you use circular containment fields instead of hexagonal ones? Would the geometry not be more stable? Kethmar paused. That was actually a very good question. Too good for a primitive species to ask. But he dismissed the thought. Sometimes young races got lucky with their guesses. Circular fields are traditional, he said. We have always done it this way. Of course, Webb said quickly. I am sorry for questioning your methods. We are just trying to learn. After the lesson, the humans gathered around their Confederation teachers with more questions. They seemed especially interested in the technical details that most young species ignored. Zexthara watched from the observation deck, making notes in her personal log. Day 93 of the uplift process, she spoke into her recorder. The humans continue to exceed expectations for a primitive species. They grasp concepts much faster than predicted. Their enthusiasm for learning is remarkable. I believe this uplift will be one of our most successful. What Zexthara did not see was the real meeting happening that night. In a hidden base beneath the ice, 50 kilometers from the embassy, Dr. Webb sat with Earth's top scientists around a holographic display. The display showed a complete breakdown of the Confederation's fusion reactor design. Their technology is at least 300 years behind ours, said Dr. Sarah Kim, Earth's leading fusion expert. The magnetic containment system is incredibly inefficient. They are wasting 60% of their energy output. Their materials science is even worse, added Dr. James Torres, holding a sample of Confederation hull plating. This metal alloy is weaker than what we were making in the 22nd century. How did they even build spaceships with this? Dr. Webb looked tired. 800 years of life had taught him patience, but sometimes the acting was hard to maintain. Remember, we must appear to struggle with their gifts. Sarah, I need you to build a demonstration reactor using their plans. Make it work, but make it look like we barely understand what we are doing. That will be torture, Sarah said. Building something so primitive when I know how to make it 10 times better. The torture is necessary, Webb replied. If we appear too competent, they will become suspicious. We have seen what happens to species that threaten the established order. Meanwhile, in cities around Earth, more Confederation teachers were sharing their advanced knowledge with human students. In New York, a Veltar engineer demonstrated gravity manipulation to a group of human physicists. The device could lift a small metal ball 3 feet into the air. Incredible, said Dr. Martinez, the lead human physicist. How do you create such powerful gravitational fields? The Veltar engineer puffed up with pride. It took our people 2,000 years to develop this technology. You humans are very lucky to receive such knowledge so early in your development. Dr. Martinez nodded enthusiastically, while thinking about the gravity drives that powered Earth's hidden fleet. Ships that could manipulate gravity strong enough to move planets. Ships that had been flying between stars for tens of thousands of years. In London, a Confederation communications expert taught humans about faster-than-light messaging. The system could send a simple text message to the nearest star system in just 3 days. This will revolutionize your world, the alien teacher explained. No longer will your people be isolated. You will be able to talk to other worlds across the galaxy. The human students gasped in amazement. They did not mention the quantum entanglement networks that already connected every human colony across the galaxy. Networks that could transmit vast amounts of data instantly across any distance. Back in Antarctica, Zexthara received reports from all the teaching teams. Every report was the same. The humans were eager learners who seemed almost desperate to understand alien technology. They made mistakes, asked for help, and showed proper respect for their teachers. Perhaps we should accelerate the program, suggested Dr. Kethmar during their daily briefing. These humans seem ready for more advanced concepts. No, Zexthara said firmly. We must be careful not to overwhelm them. Many promising species have been ruined by receiving too much knowledge too quickly. We will stick to the standard timeline. What she did not know was that every piece of technology the Confederation shared was being completely analyzed within hours. In secret laboratories around the world, human scientists dissected alien devices down to the atomic level. They studied every component, every design principle, every theoretical foundation. The results were always the same. The Confederation's technology was primitive compared to humanity's real capabilities. Their fusion reactors were crude, their gravity manipulation was weak, their faster-than-light communication was slow and inefficient. But the humans continued to act grateful. They built demonstration projects using Confederation designs. They made small improvements that seemed like lucky accidents. They asked innocent questions that helped them understand how the Confederation thought about science and engineering. Dr. Webb reviewed the intelligence reports in his private office. The Confederation had 17 different member species. Their combined technology was impressive for a young galactic civilization, but it was nothing compared to what humanity had achieved over hundreds of thousands of years. "They are children playing with toys," he murmured to himself. "Dangerous children, but still children." His assistant, Dr. Lisa Park, entered with more reports. "The Confederation is planning to introduce us to other member species next month. They want to show us off as their latest success story." Webb nodded. "Let them. The more species that see us as primitive and harmless, the better. How are our people handling the deception?" "Some are getting frustrated," Park admitted. "Especially the younger scientists. They do not understand why we must pretend to be so backward." "The young ones have not lived through the cycles," Webb said sadly. "They have not watched great civilizations destroy themselves through pride and fear. They think strength means showing off your power." He walked to the window and looked out at the Antarctic ice. Somewhere beneath that ice were defense systems that could destroy the Confederation fleet in minutes. Weapons that made their advanced technology look like stone axes. "True strength," he continued, "is knowing when not to use your power. The Confederation thinks they are the teachers and we are the students. Let them think that. Let them feel superior and safe. It keeps the galaxy stable." Park left him alone with his thoughts. Webb had been playing this game for centuries. He had watched the architects fall when they revealed their true power. He had seen the hegemony collapse when fear turned the galaxy against them. He had witnessed dozens of other elder races rise and die. Humanity had learned from all of them. Sometimes, the best way to survive was to hide in plain sight, to be the helpful primitives who were grateful for any assistance, to be seen as harmless and eager to please. The masquerade would continue. The Confederation would keep teaching their advanced technology to the grateful humans, and humanity would keep pretending to be amazed by gifts that were thousands of years behind their real capabilities. In the depths of space, hidden bases watched and waited. Ancient ships slept in the dark between stars. And on Earth, the greatest actors in the galaxy continued their most important performance. The performance of being young when they were actually the oldest civilization in the galaxy. 6 months had passed since first contact, and Captain Zexithera was beginning to feel confused. The humans were still eager students, still grateful for every lesson. But strange things kept happening. Small things that did not make sense. Yesterday, a human apprentice named Tom had been working on a shield generator in the embassy workshop. He was supposed to be learning basic maintenance, just cleaning and checking connections. But somehow the shield output had increased by 400%. "It was an accident," Tom had said, looking embarrassed. "I just connected the wrong wire. I am sorry if I broke something." The Confederation engineers had spent hours trying to figure out what he had done. The modification was brilliant, but it used principles that should have been far beyond human understanding. When they asked Tom to explain, he just shrugged and said he got lucky. "These humans are very strange," Dr. Kethmar told Zexthara during their morning briefing. "Their mistakes keep making our technology better." "Perhaps they are more intuitive than we thought," Zexthara replied. But privately, she was starting to worry. In 50,000 years of uplifting primitive species, she had never seen anything like this. In the embassy cafeteria, Ambassador Chen sat with Dr. Webb and several other human delegates. They were eating lunch with some Confederation officers, making polite conversation about the weather and human culture. "Your food is quite interesting," said Lieutenant Vextor, a young Veltar officer. "These vegetables grow in such strange ways on your planet." "We are still learning about agriculture from you," Chen replied sweetly. "Your farming techniques are so much more advanced than ours." Dr. Webb almost choked on his soup. The Confederation's farming methods were thousands of years behind what humans had developed. Their crops produced half the yield and used twice the resources. but he kept his face calm and nodded in agreement. Yes, we have much to learn, he said. After lunch, Webb received an urgent message on his hidden communicator. The Shadow Council was meeting tonight. Something important had happened. That evening, deep beneath the Antarctic ice, the secret rulers of Earth gathered in their hidden chamber. The room looked like it belonged on a starship, with walls made of materials that would not exist in Confederation. Science for centuries. We have a problem, announced General Martinez. The Confederation is planning to introduce us to the hegemony next month. A worried silence filled the room. The hegemony was one of the most powerful factions in the galaxy. They controlled over 1,000 star systems and had destroyed dozens of species that they considered threats. What kind of introduction? Asked Dr. Webb. A full presentation, Martinez replied. They want to show us off as their greatest uplift success. The hegemony leaders will examine our technology, our culture, our military capabilities. Ambassador Chen frowned. That could be dangerous. The hegemony is not as trusting as the Confederation. If they see anything suspicious, they will investigate further, Webb finished. And if they investigate too deeply, they might discover the truth. The truth was something humanity had been hiding for 50,000 years. They were not a young species struggling to understand basic technology. They were the oldest civilization in the galaxy, older than the hegemony, older than the Confederation, older than any of the so-called elder races. Dr. Webb walked to a wall display that showed the real history of the galaxy. Red markers showed dead civilizations. Blue markers showed current powers. But there were also green markers that only the Shadow Council could see. These marked the hidden human colonies scattered across the galaxy. We have been here since the beginning, Webb said quietly. We built cities when the Veltar were still living in caves. We traveled between stars when the hegemony ancestors were afraid of fire. We have watched empires rise and fall like waves on a beach. A younger council member, Dr. Sarah Kim, raised her hand. Then why do we hide? Why do we pretend to be primitive? We could rule the galaxy if we wanted to. Webb's expression grew sad. Because ruling makes you a target. Because showing your true power makes others afraid. Because fear leads to alliances, and alliances lead to war. He touched another control, and the display changed. It showed the fall of the architects, the previous elder race. 50,000 years ago, they had been the masters of the galaxy. They had built wonders that defied imagination. They had seemed unstoppable. The architects thought they were safe, Webb continued. They thought their power protected them. But when the younger races became afraid, they united. Hundreds of species joined together to destroy the architects. Even the mighty fell when everyone turned against them. The room fell silent as the EI council members watched the historical records. They saw great cities burning. They saw fleets of thousands of ships attacking architect worlds. They saw the final battle where the last architect's stronghold was destroyed. We learned from their mistake, Webb said. We chose to hide instead of rule. We became the helpful neighbors instead of the threatening masters. And because of that choice, we survived when they did not. Dr. Kim looked confused. But if we are so much older and more advanced, why do we let them make the rules? Why do we pretend their primitive technology is amazing? Because it keeps the peace, Webb replied. The Confederation thinks they are the wise teachers helping young humanity. The hegemony thinks we are harmless primitives under Confederation protection. Everyone feels safe and superior. No one sees us as a threat. General Martinez activated another display. This one showed Earth's real military capabilities. Ships that could travel faster than anything in the galaxy, weapons that could destroy stars, defense systems that made planets into fortresses. We could conquer the galaxy in a month, he said. But conquest creates enemies. Hiding creates friends. Ambassador, Chen nodded slowly. So when we meet the hegemony, we play the same game. We act grateful and confused. We let them feel superior. Exactly, Webb said. But we must be more careful now. The hegemony is suspicious by nature. They look for threats everywhere. One mistake could expose everything. The council spent hours planning their deception. They would need to hide their real technology even better. They would need to act even more primitive and helpless. They would need to convince the hegemony that humans were exactly what they appeared to be, a young species just learning about the galaxy. Meanwhile, in the embassy above, Captain Zexithara was having her own meeting with her senior staff. They were discussing the strange improvements that humans kept making to Confederation technology. Perhaps we should study their methods more carefully, suggested Dr. Kethmar. They seem to have an unusual approach to problem solving. Or perhaps they are just very lucky, Zexithara replied, but she did not sound convinced. Lieutenant Vextor spoke up. Captain, I have been reviewing our historical records. This pattern of helpful accidents, I have seen it before. Where? Zexithara asked sharply. In reports from other uplift missions. Species that seemed primitive but kept making unexpected breakthroughs. Species that asked innocent questions that led to major improvements. Zexithara felt a chill run through her body. What happened to those species? Most of them disappeared, Vextor said quietly. Their worlds went silent. When investigation teams arrived, they found empty cities and no signs of life. As if entire civilizations had just vanished. The bridge fell silent. Every Confederation officer knew the stories of the lost worlds. Dozens of planets where promising young species had simply disappeared without explanation. The official reports blamed natural disasters or unknown plagues, but there had always been rumors of something else. You think the humans might be connected to the lost worlds? Zexithara asked. I think we should be very careful, Vextor replied. And I think we should watch them more closely. Deep beneath the ice, Dr. Webb felt his communicator vibrate with an urgent message. His intelligence network had intercepted Confederation communications. They were becoming suspicious. He smiled grimly. After 50,000 years of practice, humanity had become very good at managing suspicion. They had protocols for this situation. Plans within plans within plans. The masquerade would continue, but now it would require even more skill. The dance between truth and deception was about to become much more dangerous. And somewhere in the dark spaces between stars, ancient human ships began to move closer to Earth. Just in case the performance failed and the truth was discovered. Just in case humanity needed to stop pretending to be young and start remembering how to be the elders they had always been. Dr. Marcus Webb sat alone in his private office, looking at a photograph that was older than most civilizations. The picture showed a young man in a strange uniform standing next to a massive starship. The ship was beautiful, made of metals that gleamed like silver and gold. Cities floated in the background, hanging in space like jewels. The young man in the picture was him, Marcus Webb I, taken over 40,000 years ago. He touched the photograph gently. So much time had passed, so many memories, so many secrets carried through the long years. His computer chimed softly. A message from the deep archives, the hidden libraries where humanity kept its real history. Webb opened the file and began to read, remembering the past that shaped everything they were doing today. The records took him back to the beginning when humanity first reached the stars. Earth had been different then. The continents were in different places. The ice caps were smaller. And humans were young and eager to explore everything they could find. They had built ships that could cross the galaxy in weeks. They had founded colonies on 1,000 worlds. They had made contact with dozens of alien species, most of them primitive and just learning to use fire. Humanity had been generous teachers in those days. They shared technology freely. They helped young species develop faster. They built trade, networks that connected distant worlds. For 20,000 years, humans had been the wise elders that everyone looked up to. Webb remembered those times. He had been there, kept alive by technologies that the Confederation could not even imagine. He had seen the golden age when humans guided the galaxy toward peace and prosperity. But he had also seen when it all went wrong. The first sign of trouble came when the Zephyrians developed space travel. They were a proud, warlike species that refused human help. Instead of gratitude, they felt anger that humans were so far ahead of them. They began to see human generosity as a threat, Why should they have such power? The Zephyrian leaders asked. Why should one species control so much knowledge? It is not fair. Other species began to ask the same questions. The Veltar, still young in those days, started to worry about human influence. The early hegemony members formed secret alliances to protect themselves from human domination. Webb remembered the first anti-human conference, 50 species gathering, in secret to discuss the human problem. They were afraid that humanity would eventually control everything. They were jealous of human technology. They were angry that humans seemed to know all the answers. The conference led to the first coalition war. 100 species united against humanity, claiming they were fighting for freedom and equality. The war lasted 3 years and destroyed dozens of star systems. Humanity won easily. Their technology was too advanced, their defenses too strong, but the victory felt hollow. Webb remembered standing in the ruins of the Zephyrian homeworld, looking at cities reduced to ash and glass. We have become what we never wanted to be, his wife Elena had said. She was long dead now, but he could still hear her voice. We have become the monsters they feared we were. After the war, humanity tried to be more careful. They shared less technology. They guided other species more slowly. They tried to appear less threatening. But it was too late. Fear had taken root in the galaxy. The second coalition was larger than the first. 200 species this time, including some that humanity had helped for thousands of years. The betrayal hurt more than the war itself. Humanity won again, but the cost was terrible. Entire human colonies were destroyed, billions died on both sides. The galaxy became a darker, more dangerous place. Webb pulled up another file, one that showed the fall of the architects. This was the lesson that changed everything for humanity. The architects had been the previous elder race, ruling the galaxy, for 30,000 years before humans ever left Earth. Like humans, the architects had been generous at first. They had uplifted dozens of species, shared their knowledge, built a peaceful galactic civilization. But eventually, the younger races turned against them too. The final war against the architects lasted 50 years. Every species in the galaxy joined the fight, including early humanity. The architects were completely destroyed. Their worlds were burned. Their technology was scattered. Their very name became a curse word in most languages. Webb had been there for that war too. He had been a young officer then, fighting alongside the coalition forces. He had cheered when the last architect city fell. At the time it had seemed like justice, freedom from tyranny, the dawn of a new age. Only later did he understand the real lesson. The galaxy would not tolerate a permanent elder race. No matter how kind, how generous, how peaceful they were, eventually fear and jealousy would unite everyone against them. After the architects fell, humanity took their place as the dominant power. For 20,000 years they guided the galaxy wisely. But the same pattern began to repeat. Other species grew afraid. Secret alliances formed. Wars began. The Shadow Council was formed during the Third Coalition War. While human fleets fought, desperately against impossible odds, a small group of leaders made a terrible decision. We cannot win by fighting, Webb had told the Council. Every victory makes them more afraid of us. Every display of power proves we are the threat they think we are. Then what do we do? Elena had asked. Surrender? Let them destroy us like they destroyed the architects? No, Webb had replied. We disappear. The plan was called the Great Concealment. Humanity would fake its own destruction. They would make it look like human civilization had collapsed from internal wars and natural disasters. Hidden colonies would be disguised as ruins or asteroid fields. The human fleet would scatter and hide in the dark spaces between stars. Most importantly, Earth would be reset. The great cities would be torn down. The orbital platforms would be hidden. All traces of advanced technology would be buried deep underground. Humans would live simple lives on the surface, pretending to be a young species that had never left their homeworld. It took 500 years to complete the Great Concealment. Billions of humans moved to hidden colonies. Entire fleets vanished into dark nebulae. Earth was carefully made to look primitive and backward. When it was over, the galaxy thought humanity was extinct. Another elder race had fallen, just like the architects before them. The surviving species divided up human territories and congratulated themselves on their victory. But humanity was not gone. They were watching, learning, waiting. For 40,000 years they had played this game. Every time a new species found Earth, humans pretended to be primitive. They acted grateful for any help. They let others feel superior and safe. Webb had lived through it all. He had watched the hegemony rise to power. He had seen the Confederation form from the ashes of earlier empires. He had guided humanity through dozens of first contacts, always playing the same role: the helpful primitives, the grateful students, the harmless neighbors who posed no threat to anyone. His computer chimed again. A message from Ambassador Chen. The hegemony delegation was arriving tomorrow. It was time for the most dangerous performance yet. Webb closed the historical files and stood up slowly. His body was old, even with all the life-extending technology. But his mind was sharp, honed by 40,000 years of careful planning. He looked out the window at the Antarctic night. Somewhere above, Confederation ships patrolled the sky, thinking they were protecting a primitive world. Somewhere below, human defense systems waited in the deep ice, powerful enough to destroy planets. The irony was perfect. The galaxy's greatest military power was hidden beneath the feet of species who thought they were the advanced ones. The oldest civilization pretended to be the youngest. The teachers let their students think they were the masters. Tomorrow would test everything they had built. The hegemony was suspicious and paranoid. If anyone could see through the deception, it would be them, but Webb was not worried. Humanity had been practicing this performance for longer than most species had existed. They were very, very good at it. The masquerade would continue. The secret would be kept, and the galaxy would remain safe from the truth that could destroy everything. The truth that the helpful primitive humans were actually the ancient watchers who had been guiding galactic civilization since before most stars were born. The hegemony ships arrived like black thunder across the sky. 12 massive warships, each one larger than anything the Confederation possessed. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with weapons that could crack planets in half. Admiral Thexron of the hegemony stood on his command bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the screen. His species, the Corvani, were tall and covered in scales that changed color with their emotions. Right now, his scales were dark red, the color of suspicion. "So this is the famous human world," he said to his officers. "The Confederation's greatest success story. They claim these primitives are learning faster than any species in galactic history." "The reports are impressive," said his science officer, Colonel Vexhai. "But the improvements they describe seem almost impossible for such a young race." "Exactly," Thexron replied, "which is why we are here. The hegemony does not believe in impossible things." Down on Earth, the final preparations were complete. Ambassador Chen stood in the embassy meeting room, checking her notes one last time. Dr. Webb sat beside her, his ancient eyes calm despite the danger they all faced. "Remember," Webb whispered, "act amazed by everything they show us. Ask simple questions. Make small mistakes. Let them feel superior." The hegemony delegation entered the room like a storm. Admiral Thexron was even more intimidating in person, his scales now shifting between red and black. Behind him came a dozen specialists, each one examining the humans with cold, calculating eyes. "Greetings, humans of Earth," Thexron said. His voice was deep and harsh like grinding stone. "I am Admiral Thexron of the Hegemony 4th Fleet. We have come to evaluate your progress." Chen stood and bowed politely. "We are honored by your visit, Admiral. We hope to prove worthy of the Confederation's trust in us." Thexron's scales flickered with amusement. "Trust must be earned, primitive. Show us what you have learned." For the next 3 hours, the humans demonstrated their understanding of Confederation technology. They showed fusion reactors that worked but were obviously inefficient. They displayed gravity manipulators that could barely lift a chair. They presented communication devices that took minutes to send simple messages. But Admiral Thexron was not impressed by their limitations. He was watching their methods. The way they approached problems, the questions they asked, the small improvements they suggested. "This plasma flow regulator," he said, pointing to a component in their fusion reactor. "Why did you modify it?" "Doctor." Webb looked nervous. "We thought it might work better if we changed the angle slightly. Were we wrong to do that?" "The modification improved efficiency by 12%, Thexron said quietly. "That is not a lucky guess, that is understanding." Webb tried to look pleased and confused at the same time. "We are still learning. Sometimes we get things right by accident." Thexron's scales turned completely black. In his species, that meant extreme suspicion. He walked around the reactor slowly, examining every detail. His officers spread out through the room, scanning everything with hidden sensors. Colonel Vexhai approached Chen with a small device. "This is a neural scanner," she explained. "It reads brainwave patterns. Very advanced technology. Your primitive minds will find it fascinating." Chen submitted to the scan, knowing she had to maintain the act. But inside, she was terrified. Human neural patterns were very different from young species. If the scanner was sensitive enough, it might detect the mental modifications that came with extended life and advanced education. The device hummed for several minutes. Vexhai watched the readings with growing confusion. The human brain showed patterns that should not exist in a primitive species. Complex neural pathways that took thousands of years to develop. Memory structures that suggested centuries of experience. "Admiral," she called softly, "you need to see this." Thexron studied the scanner readings. His scales began shifting rapidly between colors, a sign of extreme agitation. These neural patterns are impossible. No young species develops this level of mental complexity. The room fell silent. Chen felt her heart racing. Webb's face remained calm, but his hands trembled slightly. The masquerade was falling apart. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the embassy. Emergency lights flashed red. A Confederation officer rushed into the room, his face pale with terror. "Admiral, we are receiving distress calls from the outer colonies. Something is attacking our border systems. Entire fleets are being destroyed." Thexron forgot about the neural scans. "Show me," he demanded. The main screen activated, displaying images from the attacked colonies. What they saw made everyone gasp in horror. The colonies were gone. Not destroyed, completely erased. Where planets had been, only empty space remained. "What could do this?" Captain Zexathera asked, her voice shaking. More reports flooded in. The attackers called themselves the Devourers. They came from outside the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. Their ships were massive, dark things that seemed to eat light itself. Conventional weapons could not even scratch them. "Our combined fleets cannot stop them," the Confederation officer reported. "They have technology beyond anything we understand. At their current speed, they will reach the core worlds in 6 months." Thexron's scales turned white, the color of fear, among his people. The hegemony's great military might was useless against an enemy that could erase planets from existence. Ambassador Chen looked at Dr. Webb. After 40,000 years of hiding, this was the moment they had always feared would come. A threat, so great that the masquerade might have to end. Webb stood slowly. His ancient eyes met Chen's, and she saw the weight of millennia in his gaze. He gave her the smallest nod. "Admiral," Chen said quietly, "we might be able to help." Thexron laughed bitterly. "Help? You are primitives who barely understand fusion power. What could you possibly do against enemies that our greatest fleets cannot touch?" Chen walked to a wall panel and pressed her hand against it. Hidden scanners read her genetic code and authorized the deepest level of security clearance. The panel slid away, revealing controls that no Confederation or hegemony engineer could understand. "Computer," she said calmly. "Initiate defensive. Protocol Omega. Full revelation authorized." The embassy began to change. Walls slid apart to reveal technology that hummed with impossible power. Holographic displays activated, showing the true scope of human civilization. Star maps appeared, marking not dozens but thousands of human colonies scattered across the galaxy. Thexeron staggered backward. "What is this? What are you?" Through the embassy windows, they could see the sky changing. What had looked like empty, space now revealed itself to be filled with ships. Massive vessels that had been hiding in plain sight disguised as asteroids and space debris. The human defense fleet was awakening. Dr. Webb's voice was soft but carried the weight of ages. "We are not primitives, Admiral. We are not students. We are not young." He stood straighter and somehow seemed to grow taller. "We are the ones who have been watching over this galaxy since before your species learned to make fire." On screens throughout the embassy, the real human fleet revealed itself. Ships that dwarfed the largest hegemony vessels. Weapons that could reshape space itself. Defense platforms that made planets into fortresses. "The Devourers have made a mistake," Webb continued. "They have attacked a galaxy under our protection. They think they face young, weak civilizations. They are about to learn what it means to challenge the Elders." The battle was swift and decisive. Human ships that had slept for millennia suddenly filled space around Earth. They moved faster than anything the Confederation or hegemony had ever seen. Their weapons tore through Devourer ships like paper. In just 6 hours, the extragalactic invasion was over. The Devourers were not destroyed but captured, their technology studied, their threat neutralized. The galaxy was safe. In the embassy, Admiral Thexeron stood in stunned silence. Everything he thought he knew about the universe had been shattered in a single day. "How long?" he whispered. "How long have you been watching us?" "Since the beginning," Webb replied. "We guided your first steps into space. We prevented wars that would have destroyed you. We hid in shadows so you could believe you were strong and independent." Chen stepped forward. "The choice is yours now, Admiral. All of you. You can know the truth and live with it, or you can choose to forget. We can return to the shadows and let you believe this was all a lucky accident." Thexeron looked at his officers. Some seemed terrified. Others looked angry. A few seemed relieved that someone older and wiser had been watching over them all along. "Will you rule us now?" he asked. "Will you become the masters we always feared you were?" Webb smiled sadly. "We have never wanted to rule, Admiral. We learned long ago that power makes you a target. We choose to guide, not command. To protect, not control." The masquerade was over, but a new game was beginning. Some species chose to know the truth about humanity's ancient nature. Others preferred the comfortable lie that humans had simply risen to the occasion when needed. Dr. Webb returned to his office and made his final log entry. "Day 1 of the new age," he said into his recorder. "The secret is out, but the galaxy has not ended. Perhaps we have finally learned to balance truth with wisdom." He looked out at the stars where human ships patrolled alongside Confederation and hegemony vessels. The young races were learning to work with their ancient,